Hi, my name is Eric Layton, and this is Jeremy Ramsey, and we are with CartoBlue. We offer visual marketing solutions for the vacation rental industry, and we're here to talk about some of the recent changes that are with VRBO that are pretty substantial in regards to the scope and scale and how they'll be affecting your business. Myself, I was a property manager, managed 200 properties at one time, and Jeremy started a vacation rental company from the ground up in Hilton Head, so we definitely have some insight on the matter. So I'm going to hand things over to Jeremy to talk about some of the insights going on with these changes.
Sure. I'm sure as many of you guys may well know, there's some very drastic changes coming to the VRBO HomeAway platform, most importantly in how we're able to interact with our potential rental guests and how we're able to communicate with them. The recent changes are going to be more of a anonymous platform to where no proprietary information is passed between the rental manager and the potential rental guest, being that you're not going to have the ability to communicate your direct contact information, your company branding, your proprietary website listings. So we're going to go over some of the pros and cons of these changes that are coming into place. Our anticipation is that it's either going to be rolled out by company size or by region, and should be in effect later this week, and we anticipate these changes to come into play by Labor Day, from what we can tell.
Yeah. So it's not all negative, the things that are rolling out. There's definitely a list of some positive factors depending on, where you're at in your business and how much you work with VRBO. So one positive factor is that it's a lower cost per property. The subscription for the platinum and the gold, typically around $1,200 for the top end there. Now we're looking at a $319 a year subscription per property. So that's much lower than the higher rungs of the membership from before. Also, something else is that you get handed off the prospective guest later in the line. Before, you were answering a lot of questions prior to the sale. Now kind of HomeAway handles some of that, so you're going to have lower call volume in your call center at first. There's going to be kind of text going back and forth, but the call volume will not be there. So and another positive thing is the responsiveness to the inquiries. So rental managers are in a better position. They typically have call centers and several levels of personnel that can answer those in a very expeditious way versus the individual property owner that typically has a second job or may not be on deck to answer those as efficiently. So that gives the advantage to the property manager in our eyes over here. So, but there's definitely some things that could be considered negative, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, and some of the key points that I gathered in my research of the changes coming down the pipe are, you're not going to have the ability to capture those leads until your potential guest becomes a paying booked lead, a paying booked reservation within your system, at which time you'll receive the guest's information, their payment method, etc. What that ultimately means is additionally, because it's going to be an anonymous platform, you're not going to have the ability to capture that guest that potential guest specific information and email them back with options that are proprietary to your platform. The way that's going to be handled moving forward is you can have the ability to cross-sell that guest, but only with the VRBO listing ID property number for the other inventory that you have subscription for on VRBO. In turn, what that means is that it's going to require you as a property manager to have a subscription in place for every single property in your portfolio if you're dependent on VRBO inquiry traffic to hit the numbers you need to hit with your properties. So the one additional concern that's generated by these changes is it's going to become extremely difficult to vet a guest and make sure that they meet the requirements that are laid out in your rental contracts, your minimum age requirements, your maximum occupants. I mean, obviously that stuff is indicated on the guidelines with the property details, but it's going to become very hard during busy times of year where we see college traffic, etc., to make sure that that those guests are the guests that you want to be housing in the properties that you're managing on behalf of your owners. One other negative takeaway is ultimately these changes are increasing the overall rental revenue per property. What do I mean by that? Well, our ask hasn't changed as far as the rental rack rate that we want to generate for each booking that's facilitated through VRBO. But VRBO is adding their additional 5 to 9% per booking fee that's charged directly to the guest on the back end. But as a whole, that creates a larger amount of rental income that's being generated. However, the only beneficiary of that additional rental income now is VRBO and HomeAway. So with all these things being laid out, we want to go into some key takeaways and what we think a good response and course of action would be moving forward to make sure that you're changing with the environment so you don't kind of get left behind. I'll start in on a couple that I've made note on, and then we'll hand it off to Eric here in a moment. But like I'd already mentioned, obviously you're going to need to purchase a subscription for every property that you want to have listed through VRBO, so you have the ability to cross-sell via the VRBO listing number to the inquiries that you have coming in. If you have a property of the likeness of a certain inquiry, you can now respond to that guest. However, you can only provide the VRBO pricing and the VRBO property ID as a cross-sell alternative. One thing I really think that you should do and put a common practice on is to keep a secondary list once bookings are acquired, so you have lead capture information that you can direct market to for future purposes, and ultimately try to acquire as many direct bookings from the bookings you're facilitating through VRBO after these changes are implemented for future success within your company. I think it's going to be imperative to provide as much visual aid and as much valuable content that answers every question, crosses every T, and dots every I with your description and images that you're sharing via your listings, so you give these guests the level of comfort they need to go ahead and make a purchase decision. The reason for that is now all of typically when we have a guest interested in a rental property via a VRBO inquiry, we usually see a follow-up on that with a phone call or an email laying out a couple questions. Well, everybody knows you can cover a lot of ground in a verbal dialogue with a potential rental guest, whereas now these questions may funnel in via text, and you're going to be responding and interacting with these guests solely on text dialogue. So to make sure you're efficient in your type and the way you're communicating, that is going to be very important to maintain the bandwidth of your reservations approach.
So one of the things that we talked about in transition and then in response to all of this is where to go next and what to do just with your overall brand. So the idea is, we talk to a lot of vacation rental owners here, and there's a whole level of people on different, it's a different spectrum as far as to their reliance on VRBO. There's some newer companies that are like super reliant on VRBO, almost like 90% in some cases. And then some of the more established companies that they have established a brand, they've been around for 30 years in some cases. They're more reliant on direct bookings from their website. They've built up a presence. So it varies, and I think the end goal for a lot of the newcomers and the smaller companies is to get more direct bookings on their site, to have to rely less on these big platforms, and then when changes like this roll out, it doesn't affect your whole organization. So the idea is to, a lot of people have the goal to get more direct bookings, or to at least lessen their reliance on these big booking channels. I think that that's a common thread amongst all VRMs out there. So with that said, what we offer here at CartoBlue is assistance in that matter in regard to something called dwell time on your website. So Google is, their algorithm is constantly changing. It's geared to more quality content now. As you'll see, the days of old were kind of black hatting spamming keywords into blog posts, into titles to get more traffic to the website. Well, that isn't the case anymore. The algorithm has gotten much smarter and more focused on the quality of your content versus the quantity of keywords. So with that said, the dwell time component of the algorithm is much more important now. So what dwell time is, it's essentially an equation of click-through rate and the time that somebody stays on a page, the view time essentially. So that together equals dwell time, and it greatly affects your search ranking. So when we look at basic vacation rental listings as a whole, for the most part, they're commoditized with a standard photo gallery. So a photo gallery, especially in the realm of like everyone's looking on VRBO, they basically commoditize listing to their standard platform. So when we're looking at a standard photo gallery, it's only 30 seconds of view time. So people typically view a photo gallery, they get as much information as they can in 30 seconds. So we offer things like walk-through tours that are in 3D, that have an interactive floor plan, that are built for vacation rentals. People spend on average 4 to 6 minutes on these tours navigating the internal mappings of a property. And if you think about it, in these luxury portfolios and larger settings, like I would say any property above 2,000 square feet, it's very easily to get lost in a vacation home. Wouldn't you say? Like you have a lot of big houses in your portfolio.
Absolutely. And another key takeaway, this Eric touched on dwell time. Really, to put that in a nutshell, it's a measuring tool of the quality of your content, and the way they derive the quality of your content is the amount of time a web visitor spends interacting or on a page of your website. So what we really want to focus on today is helping everybody understand what these recent changes, if you are a company or a property manager that is relying on VRBO inquiry traffic, now so more than ever, those web visitors and direct bookings are going to be so valuable to you. And a couple things that I would encourage you folks to do. If you are accustomed to purchasing platinum memberships, obviously the one positive gain you have now is you have a lower cost of subscription to VRBO. I mean, it wasn't uncommon for us to have platinum subscriptions across the board for every one of our properties. Now we have an additional $700-800 per property that was directed towards subscription fees to VRBO that we now have freed up. Well, we want to make sure those dollars are used as efficiently as possible with things like adding in a space in your website to where you can allow a web visitor to drop their information so you can reach back out to them. Maybe think about implementing a live chat. Also, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I would have online booking turned on your proprietary website, and see what you can do to drive as much rental traffic to your own proprietary site as you can. Now, once they get there, what do you want to deliver to them? Well, you want to deliver to them a level of comfort to make a purchasing decision. And the way you would do that is by giving them as much visual aid, as much content, and as much interactive content as you can. Make your website a resource for guests visiting your area. Show them the reason why your property listings are valuable by highlighting the points of interest and attractions that are nearby or walk to or close drive to your rentals. Our mapping software is unbelievable. We have the ability to custom build you all a website for just a fraction of what most marketing costs are today. And it's basically a no-brainer because we eliminate things that may be a negative draw to certain areas. We eliminate your competition, and we eliminate things that are a deterrent to helping facilitate a booking through your site.
Yeah. And I think the mapping feature, it's like a better top-level search tool, because when people typically do an availability search on a website, they just see a listing of a bunch of properties with no location context at all.
Correct.
With the map search, you plug in your dates and you see what's available on the map from a location context, and you're getting like the full photo gallery from the PMS. If there's 3D tours in there, they're automatically brought in, and then all the amenities. So it's like a more in-depth top-level search to get people to stay on your webpage and to drill down onto your website, enhancing that dwell time, and then also just enhancing the user experience on the website, I would think.
And ultimately, folks, what we want to do is we want to help you become more efficient and more successful in your business practices. I can tell you a couple things that are going to take place once these changes are implemented and what it's going to mean to the industry. It's definitely going to shake it up. I'm going to tell you, don't wait to respond, because much of your competition is already on the move and is looking to things to respond to this, so they're not affected negatively by these changes that are coming down the pipe. Make your own website a resource, like I mentioned before, and make sure that you take this opportunity to invest in that, because beyond a shadow of a doubt, it's the most valuable asset other than your portfolio and your staff to your company.
Absolutely, well said. And there's definitely an ROI to using our services, our interactive services, and implementing on the web page. One of the factors that we've seen is when people put this and enhance their data quality of their listings on their page, that it can increase their direct bookings on the web page, that everybody's looking for those direct bookings up to 20%. So that's solid. And we're kind of correlating, we're seeing that, like how that's monetized and what that looks like, because listing with better data on it books quicker, has to endure less rate reductions, it's out the door quicker. The sales efficiency is there, so we're seeing around a 9% increase in gross revenue of properties that have interactive content on their listings. So we appreciate you guys watching. We had a lot to go over. I think we covered it all. If you have any questions, definitely reach out to us via email. We're here for you. We definitely would like to help in any capacity that we can.
Absolutely, guys. We're CartoBlue.com. You can check out our website. There's a really cool calendar link right down below this video. You can click on and schedule some time with us. We'd love to share with you some testimonials and some case studies we have in place for rental managers who have implemented our interactive content, and we want to be a partner with you. So we appreciate you guys taking the time today, Eric and I, and we're signing off. Thank you. CartoBlue.